folks. Welcome to another episode of the Snowy's Camping Show. Joined, as usual, by myself, Ben, and my colleague, Lauren. How are you?
Good,
today?
how are you?
I'm well, thanks. We are in, you may not notice subtle differences, but you are with us in a new studio today, which has been set up quite professional. The most professional studio we've had so far.
Yeah, check out our socials. We'll do some BTS of our
which is
many professional studios.
I'm not sure professional is the right word to use, but it's the best one yet.
Yep.
Yeah. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel. You can do that on YouTube or your favourite podcast app, and you can join in on the conversation at the Snowy's Camping Banter Facebook group, where we've got an awesome group of people now contributing to all things camping, caravan, hiking, just outdoors in general. Mm-hmm. Today, with school holidays coming up here, or in South Australia anyway, other states
everywhere really,
earlier,
but we're a bit staggered, aren't we?
We're talking about kids' games for camping and road trips, trying to keep them entertained.
And teenagers and potentially even your very annoying adult friend.
Yep. So in our family, I'm probably the annoying adult friend of my wife, and then we've got a 9-year-old and a teenager. So, and our teenager's very 13 at the moment.
Yeah, right.
And I'm got to bite my tongue a lot, but we haven't been on a camping trip since those hormones have kicked in. So
I love how you say very 13 and everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, we won't go into it.
And I mean, this episode also might not be relevant to you if you don't have kids or you're well past kids, but we were all kids camping at one time in our lives, hopefully anyway, or going on road trips or things like that. So even if it's not necessarily relevant to you now, it'd be great if you wanted to jump into our Facebook group or on our YouTube channel and talk about the things that you remember from your childhood, keeping you entertained on road trips.
Give us some ideas, because obviously an iPad or a tablet phone offers some entertainment. And I'm not saying don't use it, but it's nice to have a bit of a balance of both, I think, and get them, especially when they're camping, just get outside and enjoy the environment that they're in.
Yeah.
And open up their mind a little bit, look out the window rather than looking at a screen. So
yeah, we have also done an episode on camping with teenagers and another episode on camping with kids, which we'll chuck in the show notes. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what episode numbers they are, but the links will be there if you're interested in those as well.
It's quite a while ago. I didn't go back to reviewing those either, but I can't remember. We might have touched on a few games and things in those episodes, but this was purely based on, I think you did the research. I heard you asking around the office, I think, a few people.
Yeah, I did do a bit of a snowy
play?
shout out of things that people play with their families or remember playing when they were a kid. So it was cool. There were some new ones that I hadn't heard of before, or things that I thought to myself, I don't know if I would take that camping. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'll try and keep it simple. We're starting off with card games though, and I gave you a list of mine, and I can't believe I didn't put the first one in there because it's the simplest, most mindless game you could play in the car with your kids.
It's also a bit, triggering. Someone's like, I want to play I Spy. You're just like, no.
Especially if you're on an outback highway, there's not that many variations to what starts with road. Oh, you got it again.
I actually remember listening to someone tell a story once about how they were playing I Spy with their kids on a road trip, and their son had said I Spy something with J. And so they just, for half an hour to an hour, just guessing everything they could possibly think of and, not wanting to just sort of give up. And in the end, they were like, right, mate, we just can't do it. What is it? And he said, chicken. And he said, but it was chicken.
My mind goes to, that's an extremely fast chicken that kept up with your car for the whole way.
I know, but I'm guessing maybe an hour before. Who knows? Maybe it wasn't. Kids, maybe it was in a book. I don't know.
Chicken just holding on to the bull bar at the front.
Yeah, I think he was 6 or 7, the person who told the story, or the son, sorry. But it's just one of those things that I think sometimes I Spy is really simple and it's a default go-to for everyone, but sometimes it can just be really infuriating. Or when you get the ones where it's like, I Spy something with my little eye, starting with L and then N and then an F. And then come up with a 3-word answer and it's like, anyway.
We play it all the time, but it quite often becomes a bit of a spelling lesson as well.
Yes, I've had enough now.
Doesn't actually start with F, it starts with P, H. We didn't play this to have a spelling lesson.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
One that gets a really good flogging in our family is 20 questions.
I don't know this one.
So I'm sure there's going to be variations of this everywhere, but essentially we pick a category. Sometimes if it's just adults, we don't pick a category, but if it's kids, we pick a category to help narrow it down. But basically somebody thinks of something like an animal, for example, and then everybody in the car together, you've got 20 questions to ask to narrow it down to be able to make a guess, to guess it right.
Right.
And so, your first question often with animal, it can be, well, is it a mammal? Is it a land animal? Is it a sea animal? Could it fit in a shoebox?
Yep.
So you ask all of those questions, but you've only got 20.
Right.
And yeah, that seems to work really well.
Is that a little bit like that game where you pick a topic and you've got to say, I think I can't remember where I've seen this recently, but you've got to say a word that's related to that topic and you've got to keep going round and round and round until someone can't
sort
say
of.
anything.
But I think it's just the reason why I like it is because it often will get people thinking just within, it's like it's their question next. So you got to think and you've got to try and keep track of the questions and you sort of get really engaged and you can see people trying to file all the facts and the information that they've got. And then you cannot think for the life of you what it could possibly be.
So you've got to guess within 20 questions.
You've got 20 questions
right.
And then in the last round, everyone just takes a punt.
Okay.
Goes for it.
Right. I don't know the next one either. I went to and got
this is apparently a very famous game and I've never heard of it before.
Oh, right.
But
so this is someone else in the office?
In the customer support team, there were 3 people who were like, what do you mean you've never heard of this before?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, as an example, you say, I went to the camping store and I bought something starting with A, which I can't think off the top of my head. Well, it starts with an A in a camping store.
Oh, you caught me out. Okay, I should be able to get this. Nope, okay. I've got nothing.
An anorak, right?
We don't sell anoraks.
I know, but I'm just a camping store, not Snowy's.
Okay.
I went to a camping store and I bought an anorak. And then you say, I went to a camping store and I bought an anorak and a something starting with B.
Oh, and you got to keep adding to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a beach mat. And then the next person goes, I went to a camping store and I bought an anorak, a beach mat and a camp chair. And then the next person has to do, and they have to say the whole thing and you go round. But it could be, I went to the zoo and I saw her, or I went to the supermarket, or I went on a holiday and I took but it has to go A, B, C.
Gotcha. Okay, that's pretty cool. So they're easy ones to play while you're driving, right?
Yeah.
Just make sure the driver's still concentrating on the road.
Yeah.
We
would suck at these games
very much
so far.
I added one here, but I noticed mine didn't make the list.
Hang on, what was yours?
Like tell a story. It's a little bit like that. I went to that, but we'd play a game where someone would make up a story. Usually our youngest go, let's do the story game, and it's a little bit like, the story game again. All right, let's do the story game, and she'll make up a topic, and it'll start off with something crazy, like there was a purple worm that lived in this sea and it had a mermaid friend. Just make something up.
Right, okay.
And then they go, now it's your turn. And then you'd have to take that story and add to it.
So are we talking like, is there a word limit?
No, I'm sure there's probably stricter versions of the game, but we literally went, the kids are engaged. They're not complaining. We're just going to let this go for as long as it wants. Usually the kids' versions or the kids' parts of the stories are much longer than the parents because they're like, I really just can't engage.
I'm just
right
chucking
now,
one out there so we can keep turning it around.
Yeah. Usually it sort of falls into bum fart wee category as it does with kids. At which stage, like, all right, reset. Let's hilarious. Start again from the top. And we quite often do it when we're falling asleep as well. The kids are crazy, being silly in the tent, and we'll say, all right, story time. And not reading a story because it's dark in the tent.
Yeah.
So someone would make up a story. So, and that's quite relaxing at night because you're just lying there and it's peaceful and someone's just telling a story. And then it's your turn and you take a story and turn it into what you want it to be. does get a little bit mind-numbing after a while, but that's a similar kind of thing to that passing it around.
Yeah, we have actually played versions of this game before, but it's one word at a time.
Oh, yeah.
And it can be doesn't ever really last for very long because, like you say, it just takes one larrikin to just be like, this person went to the fart. And then, it's just like, you know what? And for somebody like me, I actually, this story's getting good. I want it to go somewhere, and then it's just like fart. And it's like, you know what? We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Whistle game.
The whistle game is one that is whenever you bring it up in my family, whistle game, it just gets a bit of a laugh. And the reason is because hopefully they're not listening to this, but my sister-in-law, she was on The Voice.
Oh, really?
And he's got this incredible singing voice. Like she's literally stunned. But anyway, the whistle game is where you whistle a tune and someone has to guess what song it is that you're whistling.
Oh, I gotcha.
but nobody can guess her whistles.
She could sing but can't whistle.
Yeah. Right. Or it's either that or she can't guess other people's. I can't remember what it is, but it's always just this joke around my sister-in-law in the whistle game. But it is actually really fun because some people have no tone whatsoever, and some people do. And you get these really complex, like really, someone will do just one note and that will give it away. Yeah, and then someone who can just be whistling for 3 minutes and you're like, no idea.
I think I played that with my daughter recently, but I just guessed Taylor Swift every time and it was right every time.
Oh, man.
But it just kept going. Is she going to keep going? She was, or I think she was just telling me song names. Is it Taylor Swift? Yeah. Tell me, is it Taylor Swift? Yeah. Taylor Swift? Yeah. We're going to vary the game.
I think there's probably one song that I can pick of Taylor Swift's, maybe two. There's like a Romeo and Juliet one from like 20 years ago, and then another one about shaking it off.
I could probably pick too many simply because it gets played all the time in our household.
All right.
I'm not saying I like Taylor Swift, by the way.
It's okay.
I mean, her music's good.
From what I gather, she's pretty great.
It's not on my playlist.
It's not my playlist either, but
don't
knock it.
Hey,
you've got a Swiftie bracelet though.
Well, I'm going to take that off now, aren't I? Why is that a Swiftie bracelet? My daughter made this for me.
I don't know why.
It's a Ben bracelet.
Maybe the Swifties out there who listen to this podcast can help us to understand why bracelets are a thing, but Ben appears to be wearing a Swiftie bracelet without knowing it.
And it's got my name on it because in case I forget.
Yep, and a little flower and all that hoo-ha. Well done, Ben.
My daughter's bought me this one and my other daughter made me that one.
Nice.
But I'm not a Swiftie.
You're not a Swiftie.
No. Anyway, change one letter.
Change one letter is
don't know that one either.
Quite funny. It's where you think about a movie like, okay, we'll just go with Die Hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just change one letter of the movie title. So you could change it to Pie.
That's a bad. It's a bad movie name to start with.
No, but
anyway, keep going.
No, like,
it's not often that Lauren's rendered speechless, but
no, I mean, like, okay, we'll just go with it. Okay, Die Hard. You could say like Fly Hard or Pie Hard or something. I don't know what's
Let's use the name Home Alone instead, and go with that.
Card, like Die Card. I don't know, something.
So Home Alone, Dome Alone.
Dome Alone.
Rome Alone.
Yeah. Post Malone, whatever.
So
you change one of the letters in the movie title. Stop looking at me.
Try not to laugh.
And then but you don't tell anybody, you just do it in your head. And then what you have to do is tell the synopsis of your movie with the new title to everybody else in the car.
Oh my gosh.
And then they have to guess what the movie is.
All right. The new movie name.
The new movie name.
Okay.
So you basically use the same sort of synopsis as the original.
Yep.
But with the new name and like how it's changed, like Pie Hard, maybe it's a competition about, this baker and they had to bake pies and it was like this really elite level and it was really hard. And so people have to listen to your synopsis and try and relate it back to a movie title that they think could be related. It's actually really fun.
That sounds like a lot of brain power, that one.
Yeah, but it's fun, as you can see.
Anyway, got us alive. We weren't even playing the. Oh no, we were playing the game, I suppose. Did you hear? I haven't heard of any of these names.
So I didn't know about this one either, but this was suggested to me as a similar thing to Balderdash, which is a game where essentially, I'm not going to go into Balderdash because that's digressing, but Did You Hear is where you talk about something that you've heard that's a recent event or in the news or current affairs or something, and people have to guess whether or not it's true.
Right.
And so you've got to convince them, and if you convince them and they believe you, then you've won.
So you just make up some random story.
Yeah, but obviously then you win if it's something that's true and nobody believes you, but it really is true.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just another really fun one.
That was pretty cool. Playground Ninja Cup, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. Pull over, stop at a playground, have a Ninja Warrior competition on the playground and keep going. Yeah,
that's what we do. We try and find a route over the play equipment that is achievable by every member of the family, and we just time them. And everyone just goes as fast as you can. Maybe you might do 1 or 2 rounds, and the winner might, get their pick of an ice cream or something. Awesome. And everyone else just gets an ice bowl.
It's cool. Of course, arguments later. Shotgun that's not really a game. That's just like a all-in run to the car, isn't it?
No. Now, I didn't hear about this one, and I put it under car games because I hadn't heard this one before, but somebody else that knows swears by it. And it's a card game, and it comes in like a little travel pouch, but you pull out a card and it's the first person to spot a number plate from another state other than the one you're from.
Oh, right.
And so everyone's trying to get, and then you get that point, and then that person gets the card, and then you pull out the next card and you read it, and it's the first person to something or other, and then you win. Person gets that card, and so you play it for a X amount of time, and then whoever's got the most amount of cards wins.
Is it actually you buy these cards or you make them up?
Yeah. It's like the people who've made Cards Against Humanity and a few other games, they've made this car road trip game called Shotgun, and it's actually really cool.
I've got a version of that game on my desk called Cards Against End of Financial Year. It's from an agency that sent it to me one year.
Sounds
never played it.
Like a very not fun game.
Yeah. Well, I never played it. I wouldn't know, but I can't imagine it's overly exciting.
I actually do want to play it.
Well, you can have it. There you go.
All right.
I'll give it to you for Christmas. It's probably a bit faded. It's been sitting in the sun for a while.
Can you give it to me for end of financial year?
Too late. I have to wait till next year.
It's retrospective.
Spotto Punch-Buggie. Is that like spot something, punch someone?
Do you not know what Spotto / Punch-Buggie is?
Well, I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
So when I was a kid, and this might be different for other people, but when I was a kid, Punch-Buggie was whenever you saw a VW Beetle.
Oh, right.
Because obviously there were more of them around in the 80s and 90s. And so whenever you saw a Punch-Buggie, you'd just be like, Punch-Buggie, and you'd punch someone in the car.
Right.
But then that sort of evolved to Spotto, and it's yellow cars.
Oh, kids play
And it's like whenever you see a yellow car, it's like Spotto, and then you sort of keep tally.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I hear them do that.
There you go, Spotto, it's a yellow car. And then, you can sort of, we've done it to, you've got to get 5 in a row, or you've got to this or that. And then you can be like spot, and someone gets a red car or a pink car or something. And
Well, that explains the game that they're playing. I know what it is now.
You do. Now you can just start yelling Spotto.
Yeah, just to win. Moving on to the campsite games. Murder in the Dark. Is that like Storm the Lantern?
What is Storm the Lantern?
So I played Storm the Lantern a lot with scouts, where you'd have a lantern sort of in a central area and a rope around it, and everyone would disperse out into the woods, and you'd have to try and sneak your way in past the rope. And if you got in past the rope without the one person, so there's one person in the middle trying to spot people trying to get inside the rope.
Yeah.
And there's some impatient people who are just like barreling with no chance of not being spotted. And then was
like
myself.
Capture the flag at paintball. You can always pick
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was myself and my other mate who went full blown camouflage gear.
Strategic.
And weren't even trying to get to the lantern. We were just trying to get as close as we can, so that when the game was over and they go, all right, we give up, we'd stand up really close and go, oh, you didn't spot us.
Yeah, same.
Probably not
Maybe
really
that's why we're
participating in the fun of the game, because everyone got bored. but we'd literally be lying next to a bush all covered in our camo gear going, look how close I got. And yeah, it's really good fun. We've been waiting for half an hour. Anyway, is that what? That's a picture of my childhood.
I'm just laughing because that's how I would approach things as well.
Yeah.
Can't do it unless I'm doing it perfectly. Yeah. But I was competitive
wasn't
So I did
sport
want that
competitive.
lantern.
Yeah, but I wasn't sport competitive. I was just, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think Spotlight's a bit like that. That's what I call Spotlight.
Yeah. So
where someone sort of sits in one particular space with a torch, and they've sort of go around and try and find people in the dark.
Yeah, a bit like that.
But
Murder in the dark?
You have to be moving.
Murder in the dark?
No, for Spotlight.
Oh, right.
So obviously, it's not possible for you to be completely out of view at all times. But if the spotlight's going around, it's got to get on you whilst you're actively moving.
Oh, so if it's on you,
whereas
you
if you're sort of hidden and you're still, that's fine. But if they can, see your foot or your arm or whatever, it's not like they can just come walking straight down the guts of it. But
so you've got to be not just still, but not be able to be seen as well.
Yeah, but it's like you're supposed to, you get to the person with the spotlight. It's not a lantern or a flag or whatever, but you are trying to get to the person or as close to the person with the light as you can.
Okay.
But you can only be caught with the spotlight if you're moving. Does that make sense?
So if you're shining
on
you
they're
and you're
shining
still,
on you and the person's like, I can see you and you're still, then someone else is going to take the risk and they might take a couple of steps and then spotlight will go over to you. And, you obviously you try to hide as much as possible.
Yep. I get it.
Yeah. And that's like hours, mate. I'm hours into the night.
The kids would be freaked out by the dark.
Nah. Not in the 80s.
Nothing bad in the 80s in the dark.
No, not in the 80s.
Murder in the dark, though, is more like you're talking traditional
now,
murder in the dark.
This was something that someone in our warranties team was like, murder in the dark. We played that all through our childhood. And it works best if you're sort of camping with other families or other people who have kids that want to join in, because someone's a murderer and someone's a policeman, and the murderer sort of runs around in the dark tapping or touching the people who are murdered, and the policeman's got to try and work out who it is.
Oh, okay. Yes, okay. I think my daughter played that at Scouts for a little bit.
Yeah.
Similar thing in the park over the road. Alpha Challenge? I don't know any of these.
So Alpha Challenge is actually one of mine, and I think that maybe our families potentially made it up. But having brothers that always wanted to beat dad at everything when they got to a certain age, our family has things like Alpha Challenge, where it's like, I can do like way more push-ups than you, and so they're trying like Alpha Challenge dad with push-ups.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, well, I can do it with my feet on a stool, and then they do it, and like dad kicks their butt. But then so we do it also where when we're anywhere, you can just be like, if Alpha Challenge is a part of your family, which I thoroughly recommend it because it's amazing, but it's essentially all the kids and anybody really who wants to pit themselves against dad. And, on Kangaroo Island, we did it like racing up the top of the sand dunes or down at Remarkable Rocks when there was a rock further out. It's like, who can get to the top of this rock and who can, then it might be somewhere where you're standing on top of a cliff and someone's like, oh, see that tree branch there that's hanging over that bit of thing under there? Yep, I'm going to hit that first with a rock. And so then next minute you're standing at your lunch spot for an hour longer than you wanted because they're trying to hit.
Yeah,
so it's just this constant rolling challenge or, trip Olympics that you can do to try and beat dad. And it actually is really great.
How many hospital visits?
None.
Is it none so far? Not like I'm going to first to swim across the Murray River.
Take healthy risks. That's what I say.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't be risk adverse. Take healthy risks.
I like the sound of the next one, target practice.
That is extending on from, see that log down there, I'm going to hit a rock on it.
Oh, gotcha.
Sometimes also on camp you might get a stick and you might put it somewhere and then you might get another stick and put it into a log, and then you can get little rocks, and obviously you're doing it safety, but you can use little rocks, or if you're someone who potentially is inclined to have a slingshot or a Shanghai or something, which you probably don't, but if you did.
First to knock the apple off someone's head.
Yeah, not that sort of stuff, but it's just things like
Robin Hood style.
Anything that I think uses physical activity, like kids being physical, but also having a bit of competition and a physical challenge is an absolute winner.
Yeah, okay. Glow stick quoits I think is pretty explanatory. I've never played it. I don't tend to take glow sticks with me. I don't like the disposable nature of them. But that's just me being a party pooper.
No, we don't. Well, no, it's not necessarily you being a party pooper because each to their own. Like we don't take them, but we have been camping with people who have taken them before, and you don't see your kids for hours.
Yeah, okay.
They're just off in the bush doing whatever, and you just see these little glow things and you're like, okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Yep, there's 7 little bobbling, glowing things.
So it's just like
everything's fine.
Like when the dog's got a little flashing thing on its collar,
Correct.
you're just tagging your kids with glow sticks.
Yep, and then see this little glow thing bobbling, and then all of a sudden the glow thing's gone and you're like, oh, where'd it go? And then the glow thing comes up again and everything's right.
If one doesn't move for 5 or 10 minutes, might be time to check on that.
Yes, but we've played that before on like a New Year's Eve where in a clear drink bottle, sort of like yours, we've chucked a bunch of glow sticks in water and it's sort of radiated out like a lantern, and then they've used those little plastic things to make the hoops and throw them on.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Travel documentary, is that just?
Sort of like what your suggestion is with making a mini video.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, good one. So my kids, we had it's like a DJI Osmo, you borrowed it once, that little action camera. And the kids used that, so they climb on the car and the roof rack, and we'd be at a campsite, and my wife and I just
like a GoPro,
relaxing.
right? For people who might not know that. Yeah.
And they'd take that and they just make their own little movie. They'd be up telling stories, and then it'd evolve somewhere. Next thing you know, they're changing clothes. Not that we had many clothes, but they're making up dress ups and turning this whole thing into a movie because they can, delete and add it together. And then if they've got a movie editor, if you want them on the phone, they can use a movie editor and make a movie of it.
Yeah.
And that went so far as to them not even just using a camera, but just putting a play together, because my kids they're all about the stage. My daughter loves, she can't get enough eyes looking at her. If there aren't any other eyes on her, her eyes are on her. She loves looking at herself and being the center of attention. So they'll just create – no, it's my oldest.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. My other one's quite a performer, but she's not doesn't like the center of attention. My oldest just loves the center of attention. Putting a play together or a dance as well, like choreographing things or putting together a play. They did heaps of that. And it took a while. We were traveling for 4 months a few years ago. And it took a while for them to step away from needing to be entertained to creating this entertainment. And it was really, really wholesome for them to just go and like make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And you could just see they're much clearer heads and just happier, calmer without being attached to something. So you do as a parent need to go, all right, we'll sit down and watch your performance. And it's usually a little bit mind numbing when they're quite young, but you sit there and you clap and But it is awesome. Yeah. And especially if you can turn it into documenting your travel as well.
And just, if your kids do have devices, you can, and different ways of using them is, hey, let's do, documentary, and you can record video every day and come up with interview questions, and we can all talk about our trip. And
Charades,
obvious.
That's a classic.
That's an absolute classic.
Yeah.
Some people can be really diehard with it and have, I remember going to someone's house once and they were playing charades and they were like using all these symbols, and everyone was like, oh, a book, like 6 pages, oh, whatever. And I was like, what? I thought that was part of, but it was like all these little symbols that you can do to narrow down the category before you then try to act out the thing. And I never knew that was a thing.
We just jumped straight into acting out the thing, like 4 words, first word, fourth word, and then just random. It just sort of goes into this space where we're just throwing random things out as quick as we can until we land on something that sticks. And then it's usually like, we said that. No, you didn't. Yeah, we did. That's like the second thing I said. No, you never said that. Okay. All right. Game's over.
Game's over.
So that's all kind of the not physical board games, but there are obviously actual travel games you can buy. And we take, usually whenever we go camping, we have a few just small ones that are often variations of bigger board games.
Yeah.
But they're packed small. There's not as many parts that you can lose. We've got a travel operation.
That sounds crazy to me, because operation, like obviously I'm very good at it, but operation even smaller.
Well, it's a card game. So you play it with cards.
No.
So it doesn't really.
Well, how does it work then?
It's totally different. It's like a number of symbols. I can't remember how it is, but you get so many cards and the person with so many like guts or toilets or whatever wins. I can't remember. There's so many points. I can't remember how it goes. But you do initially play it and you're like, okay,
it's not this little, tiny little operation. Okay.
No, it's totally different than that. But also, have you ever played Monopoly Deal?
No, but totally coincidentally, my sister was actually talking about it on the weekend. She's like, I hate Monopoly, but we've got this Monopoly deal and it's amazing.
It's
and I was
really
like,
good.
I hate Monopoly, but you're telling me that there is a Monopoly related game that's good.
And
She's like, it's good.
It's just a card. So Packs Up Small, it's a card game and it's got all the same properties and everything, but it's a totally different strategy. You're not rolling a dice and moving little things that you can lose.
Yeah.
It's just a card game and it is really good too.
Yeah, cool.
To play on, you can play it in the tent at night or on the camp table. Any games? Uno is another good one that just doesn't have lots of small things that you can lose.
Yeah,
easy to pack into a little drawstring bag.
Mind you, though, Yahtzee's a good game. I know it's 5 dice, but it's just 5 dice, and that's it.
You can't lose it. You don't get to the end, like you put 5 dice away, you get 5 dice out, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you've got Monopoly
little
where you've got
tokens or money or you
can lose it all.
There is a game that I 100% recommend to anybody who likes a good card game, and that is 5 Crowns. And 5 Crowns has had the biggest workout in our family and extended family to the point where we've had to replace it because it's literally worn away.
Wow.
It is the best. So essentially, as the name suggests, instead of having 4 suits like in a normal deck of cards, you have 5, and then you play 13 rounds. And not 13 rounds, 10 rounds, but you start with 3 cards in the first round, 4 cards in the second round, 5 cards, whatever. Right. And what you need to do is for every hand that you have to create a sequence of 3 or more cards.
Right.
So then obviously your first round is relatively easy because you just got to get 3 cards that somehow fit in the acceptable sequence for the game. Then 4's a little bit trickier because you have to get 4 because you have minimum of 3. So you can't just put 3 down and have 1 spare. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And the first person and you go around in rounds, and then the person who finishes a round or folds first has to have every single card in their hand accounted for in a sequence. But then after that point, you don't have to, but you are forced to put down when that person goes. So if you fold because your hand's all clear, I have to try and make do with whatever I've got in my hand because I have no other choice.
Right.
So whatever I've got in a sequence goes down, but whatever's left over gets added up, and that's my points for the round.
Oh, okay.
And so you can have people that end up with 500, 600, 700 points because they just have not been able to work it out. And you can have people like, I think my dad's finished an entire 10 rounds on 6 points because he just nailed it. It's it's great, but it's so fun.
Yeah, cool.
I really recommend it.
Reckon you've
and
told
any
me about
age
that.
can play.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I reckon you've told me about it. Goes without saying, magnetic games are a good one.
And there is a huge range of magnetic games. I didn't actually realise that there was until someone was like, oh, yeah, magnetic games. And I was like, I reckon I had one of those at some point. Yep. And then you Google it and they're all in the same sort of like size case and you can stack them all together and fit them in a box, and there's a huge amount available.
All like travel chess and
like Trouble and Checkers and Connect 4. And
some of them have got more little bits, but because it's magnetic, you can kind of move it around. Or if you're on an uneven mattress or someone's sitting on the camp mat and moves, all the
pieces,
all the chess pieces don't fly off.
Yeah.
A bit of a bulkier one is Finska. It is a good one to play. Do you know it's even got an app? It's called FinScore.
No way.
Yeah. So you
you keep track of your score.
Keeps track of the score for
I
you.
love that.
So it's cool. So I found that when we were playing it at my brother and sister-in-law's place recently. I'm like, it's got an app.
Yeah. Finska is such a good game, but it does have its limitations in you've got to have a fairly clear, relatively even space because it does sort of rely on the pins moving.
Good for the beach.
Great for the beach, great for a caravan park, great for somewhere, even if you're like at Kaipo or a state forest where you've got like a dusty but flat surface. It just is good. It's one of those games and it packs all up into a crate. So it is a bit heavy and it does take up a bit of space, but it's definitely a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good fun for a big group.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all we've got, but really keen to hear everyone else's games that you guys use or play, whether it's adults, young adults, old adults, kid adults.
Anywhere in between.
Anywhere in between. What do you play in the campsite? What's an easy thing to transport?
What do you play in the car? What's a guaranteed entertainer for you.
Yep, for that last half of the drive when the kids are ratty in the back and start punching each other. How do you engage
handle
them?
it?
Yeah. We'll start the conversation, or we'll post this episode on the Snowy's Camping Banter Facebook group. Jump in and let us know your thoughts on what games you recommend for everyone else who's trying to get through a road trip with the kids, or trying to get them maybe off their devices in the campsite and just using their brains a little bit more rather than being entertained, creating entertainment.
Definitely. Have a great school holidays.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Catch you later.
Bye.